Today I'm going to share with you my favorite top 5 cashback credit cards for 2020. I am so excited about this, and I just want to also let you know this is for entertainment purposes only and is not financial advice. So let's get started. Hey everyone, this is Lauren Mack with Hacking the Rat Race, and I would love for you to hit the like button and subscribe so you don't miss any more videos on money, savings, and investing. Okay, let's get started with the top 5 cashback credit cards for 2020. These are my favorite. The first card I'm going to tell you about is the Citi Double Cash Card. And this card is awesome because it gives 2% cash back. Right now, the norm is about 1.5%, so 2% is great. And the way that it works is 1% is given to you whenever you purchase the item. Whenever the credit card bill is paid, then they give you the other 1% to make a total of 2%. The only downside is they don't have an introductory offer. However, the extra 0.5% cash back is really awesome. The other thing is you have to redeem the cash back in $25 increments. So that's not as great as some of their cards, but I still think the 2% cash back outweighs it. And the other thing that's great about this card is they have a 0% interest APR for 18 months. So if you have a balance on another credit card and you're paying a ton of interest on it, you can transfer it to this credit card for only 3% or $5 minimum, and then you can spend 18 months paying that off without paying those high interest charges. So that is also a huge perk, and I just love this card, and the 2% cash back is great. So the next card I'm going to tell you about is the Capital One Quicksilver Cash. It also has a 0% annual fee, but it does have an introductory offer, and the introductory offer is if you spend $500 in the first 3 months, they give you $150. That is a free $150 if you put things on this card that you would already be spending anyways, and $500 over 3 months is actually a great introductory offer amount. I've seen some cards up to $3,000 in 3 months. And it has 1.5% cash back, and it doesn't have categories and all those kind of things, so they just give you a standard 1.5% cash back. And this is a good offer. They also give you a 0% APR over 15 months. So for 15 months, if you have debt again on another card that is costing you so much money in interest, you could transfer it to this card and you wouldn't have to spend so much money on interest. The other thing I love about this card is they have 0% foreign transaction fees. And this is great if you travel because you can get cash back while traveling and you don't have to pay foreign transaction fees. The other great benefit of this card is there's not a redemption amount minimum, meaning if you get $3 cash back, you can just get the $3. You don't have to wait for it to hit the $25 minimum like the Citi Double Cash Card. So that is great because then you can take the cash back anytime. You don't have to wait until you hit increments in order to take advantage of it. While this card does have 0.5 percentage rate less than the Citi Double Cash Card, it is still a great option because it has a great intro, no foreign transaction fees, and you can still transfer a balance if you need to from another card. The third card I'm going to tell you about is the Chase Freedom Unlimited. And please do not get this card confused with the Chase Freedom card. The Unlimited is 1.5% cash back on everything all the time. The Chase Freedom card is the kind that has categories, so you might get a little bit higher percentage, but you literally have to track it and stay on top of it all the time. And I don't really think it's worth it, and I think most people don't do it. And the problem with cards like that is that you only get 1% whenever you're not using those categories. So I just think 1.5% is better across the board. So the reason this one is third though is because it is very similar to the Capital One Quicksilver card, and it also has foreign transaction fees. So to me, that just makes it a little bit less valuable. However, it has 1.5% across the board, and it has a 0% APR for 15 months. And so you could transfer another balance. It also has a 0 annual fee, and it also has the same introductory offer. So you get $150 after you spend $500 in the first 3 months, which I think this is great. However, I just think that the other card is slightly better, but maybe you like Capital One or Chase better, so maybe that could be the deciding factor. Or if you travel, I would definitely get the Capital One Quicksilver Cash over the Chase Freedom Unlimited, but if you don't travel, it's up to you. You can check them both out, but they are very, very similar. So the fourth one I'm going to tell you about is the Discover It Cash Back card. Here's the thing about this card. It is one that has categories. However, the categories are pretty good if you're willing to keep up with them. It is the only card on this list that has categories. But the categories might be things like groceries, dining out, fuel, things that we use all the time. The only thing I don't like about these cards is that you have to stay on top of it. But if you are willing to stay on top of it, it's a good deal because it's 5% cash back. However, if you don't stay on top of it, it's only 1% cash back on everything else. So that is why it is number 4. And it does have an introductory offer, which I think is quite interesting. And if you are a huge spender and paying your balance off, I should mention, then it could maybe add up for you. So the way that it works, it's called a cash back match. So at the end of the year, all the cash back that you've accumulated, they will match it, which sounds amazing, right? And it is amazing, especially if you spend a lot of money in the 5% category. But here's the deal. The cards above, you only need to spend $500 and get $150. And this one has 1% cash back in all the other categories unless you're signed up for the 5%. Let's just say overall, between the 1% and the 5%, you were able to average, let's say, a 1.5% cash back. That would mean that you would have to spend $10,000 on this card in 1 year to get the same $150 that you get for spending $500 on the other 2 cards. However, if you love keeping up with these things and you're a credit card churner and you think you can nail the 5% consistently, then I would say go for it. It's still 5%, and if you keep up with it, that is a lot of money. I still think the introductory offer, while it sounds good, is a little weak in my opinion, so that's why this card is number 4. It doesn't have an annual fee, and there's also not a redemption minimum. So again, if you get $5 in cash back, you can just redeem that $5. You don't have to wait for it to hit $25. That sounds pretty standard except for the first card that I mentioned in this video. So the fifth card that I'm going to tell you about today is the Apple card. And this one might surprise people because it doesn't seem like a traditional cashback card, but it is actually new and it's revolutionized in so many ways. So I'm going to break it down for you. There's actually tiers of cash back, and it's not like the categories. It's basically 3% on any Apple products. This could be Apple phones, computers, even iTunes, their apps. Like anything Apple, you get 3% cash back. Now, you get 2% cash back if you use Apple Pay. So if you put this card in Apple Pay and you tap it whenever you pay for something, you get automatic 2% cash back, which is awesome if you're using Apple Pay. However, if you still aren't using Apple Pay and you're just using a regular credit card, they do send you a card, but you only get 1% cash back. And the reason I put this card as number 5 is just because not everyone uses Apple Pay. However, some other good perks of this card is they have no annual fee and they actually have no fees ever. There aren't late fees, there aren't over the limit fees, nothing, and they try to have the lowest interest rates. As I've mentioned in other videos, the range of the annual percentage rate for credit cards right now is 15% all the way to 25%. Well, Apple on their bottom range is 12.99% up to I think like 23.99%. So it is slightly less, and in some cases, depending on your credit and whatever you get approved for, it could be much less. So if you buy a lot of Apple products or from Apple apps and things like that, and you use Apple Pay, this could be a great option for you. They also have a very transparent and budget-friendly interface, so you can see how much you're spending in different categories. And if you aren't paying off your balance, it'll show you if you pay this much, this is how much interest you're accruing, and again, the no fees. It is a really new, revolutionary credit card in that way. If you're not really using Apple Pay and you don't plan to use Apple Pay, then I would say one of the first 4 credit cards is a better fit for you. And I can't mention the top 5 of my favorite cashback credit cards without saying, please use these responsibly. Here's the thing, I don't think people realize when they get these cards and they start getting balances on them, in most cases, they completely lose their benefit. Let me give you an example. If you have a credit card, and let's just say it gives you 1.5% cash back, and you spend $1,000 on that credit card in 1 month, that's $15 cash back, which is great. But if you don't pay that balance off when it's due, and you carry it for 1 month at a 20% interest rate, which is about the average interest rate right now in 2020, that interest is gonna cost you $15. You literally just negated all of the cash back you got. Now let's say, well, Lauren, maybe I have a 2% cash back and I carried it. Well, I still netted $5. Yeah, I guess that's true. However, if you carry that $1,000 limit for 6 months, now it's almost $60. So literally negative $50. So it is not a good idea to be carrying balances, which I know that you know that. I just don't know if everyone knows the full impact. And I know so many times people get credit cards for cash back or points or whatever, but then whenever they carry balances on them, which is often, it literally does not make it worth it. You shouldn't have it if you're going to do that. However, if you do have other cards that have balances, transferring them to the 0% APR might be a great way to pay them off and get out of debt. But please, 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 if you get one of these cashback cards, please pay it off every month. It is totally worth it. You're actually getting free money. So just start now. And again, if you spend $500 on the Capital One Quicksilver Cash or the Chase Freedom Unlimited, you get $150. That is a free $150 that you could use to pay off your debt or fund your emergency fund or invest that money. So these are my top 5 favorite cashback cards for 2020. And I want to hear from you in the comments below. Do you have another favorite cashback card that I didn't mention? If so, please tell me what it is. And if not, which card are you most excited about? I cannot wait to hear from you. Thank you so much for watching this. I would really appreciate it if you would hit the like button. It doesn't cost you anything and it does so much for this channel. And also subscribe so you don't miss any videos on money, saving, and investing. And I will see you in the next video.